Okay, folks, it's about 5 after 12 and we'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Perry Newman. I'm the Executive Director of Konbit Sante, and we're very pleased to have you join us today for a very timely discussion about foreign development aid, USAID in particular, and the perspectives of the impact of foreign aid and USAID in particular from the perspective of someone who has worked in both in USAID and the Peace Corps and the State Department as the United States Ambassador to Haiti, among other places. And we'll get into that very shortly, but we're very pleased to have with us the Honorable Pamela White, Pam White, a good resident of Maine most of the time, part of the time. So we're particularly fond of her and very grateful for her time today. We're very pleased to have all of you here today for this discussion, and we hope it will be a discussion after we sort of do a little context setting about the role of foreign aid, its pluses and minuses, the impact of the current stop work order, with which many of you may be familiar, and the notion of soft power, as it is sometimes described in the world of diplomacy as a means of communicating foreign policy and achieving foreign policy objectives on the one hand, while also, from the practitioner's standpoint, doing good and really trying to make a difference, a positive difference in the world. This has obviously become very, very timely after the administration's decision essentially to eviscerate USAID. My word, nobody else was my eviscerate USAID, or as someone put it, to feed the agency into the wood chipper. Now, if you follow the news, you see basically almost on an hourly basis, but certainly on a daily basis, the constitutionality of various executive orders and actions taken by various parts of the administration are constantly being called into question, some outright overturned, some overturned, but with questionable practical effect, given the fact that tens of thousands of people have already lost their jobs. But it's very much to say that it's a fluid and dynamic environment is something of an understatement. And therefore, we think this is a very, very timely discussion. And I'd like to sort of tee up the discussion by examining the issues in the context of the experience of Konbit Sante, which is a small international NGO or non-governmental organization active in the north of Haiti. And our guest, Ambassador White, is uniquely positioned to discuss all the questions that I raised, but also the impacts in places like Haiti, which is a very challenging place to do business and a challenging place to live, frankly, on a day-to-day basis. Following my brief presentation and some remarks by Ambassador White, we'll open the floor for discussion, or rather for chat. I imagine that most folks are familiar with the Zoom chat function at the bottom of your screen. Depending upon your layout, you'll find the chat button, and we'll endeavor to answer as many of those as we possibly can. Finally, as you've noted, we're recording the presentation, and it will be available shortly after the webinar for your viewing pleasure or to share. So with that, I'm going to get started and share this brief presentation about the experience of Konbit Sante in particular, and how that ties into the larger question of foreign aid and foreign development aid, and how we can all react positively to the changes that are being made. Okay. So a brief introduction, and each phrase in this mission statement is meaningful in terms of the way we approach what we do. Our mission is to support the development of a sustainable health system. Keywords there are the development and sustainable health system, and of course, support, not to create, not to run our own health system, not to run our own hospitals, but to support the development of a sustainable health system to meet the needs of the Cap Haitian community, not all of Haiti, not Port-au-Prince, not other areas, but the Cap Haitian community with maximum local direction and support. And this is a key kind of aspect of Konbit Sante's DNA. It's the maximum local direction and support that defines the way we do what we do. A bit of a geography. Cap-Haïtien is up here in the very north of Haiti. And you can see Port-au-Prince down here, about 120, 110, 120 miles away as the crow flies. It takes a long time to drive from place to place. Of course, now it's not possible to fly on a commercial airline into Port-au-Prince, but it is possible to fly into Cap-Haïtien. Normally, you can fly in on Spirit Airlines from Fort Lauderdale. Spirit is not flying there at the moment. They expect to resume service, we hope, perhaps even later this month. It's a fluid situation, but currently it's possible to fly in from Miami on a Haitian airline called Sunrise Airlines, and we've taken that, and it does enable us to get in and out, unlike other parts of the country. But this is where we operate, in the North province up here, not over here, not over here, but in the north. Again, part of the mission. So in a nutshell, we work with 4 partner hospitals and clinics to improve healthcare outcomes for poor people. I use the term poor people not in a judgmental sense. Obviously, it is a descriptor. These are people with very modest means, very low income. And our work is done not directly at Konbit Sante hospitals, so to speak, but with hospitals and clinics, specifically under Haitian management, to our public, to our private, to improve outcomes for poor people in the area that we serve. So I've talked about the systems approach. If you have Konbit Sante here, the World Health Organization, if you can, I would suppose, categorize in very, very broad terms the 3 foundational aspects of public health. You can support the development of staff, you can provide stuff, and you can provide or improve space. And all of these things we do to various extents at various times, depending upon the particular needs of our partner facilities. But one of the things that is the value add, I'd like to say, is this sort of connective tissue of data gathering, management, and process improvements. You can provide staff, you can train staff, but if they don't know how to manage or gather or utilize data, then it's of limited utility. It's always good to have people there, but they need to know what they're doing, and they need to know to be able to manage the information. Similarly, stuff, you can gather all the pipes you want, but it doesn't necessarily make it a sewer system. You can have fancy equipment, the latest technology, but if it doesn't operate in the environment in which it is dedicated, it doesn't do much good. Similarly, you can have great space, but if it isn't designed to meet the needs of the local community and the local systems, it's not helpful. So in addition to providing these constituent foundational pieces, Konbit Sante provides data management and process improvement advice. So how do we improve the healthcare outcomes? We take a systemic versus a piecemeal approach. We're there all the time without interruption. We don't do one project, go away, and come back in 6 months. We've been there for almost 25 years, and we work to see that the entire system by which patients are tended to is managed. We're focused. We don't work all over Haiti. We work in the north. We also focus on maternal and child health and pediatrics. We don't have emergency facilities directly under our operation. We don't do nephrology. We don't do other aspects of medical care. We're very focused on maternal and child and neonatal care. Local control versus superior guidance. Again, this is a key element of what we do. The notion of a Konbit is a community effort. One can analogize it to a barn raising, where people work together and decide what is best for the community. Decisions are made locally. We have a sustained commitment, as I indicated. We don't come down periodically. We're there all the time. And we develop, and we believe in local expertise versus importing expertise on an ad hoc basis. That means the notion is to listen to our Haitian partners, who often have the best vantage point and the best ideas for local solutions to local challenges. Briefly, and then we'll move forward. Some of the data management and process improvements involve business planning, courses and research methods, medical records management systems. And this need not be, highly elaborate IT driven solutions. It can simply be color-coded file folders. We develop systems that are attuned to the needs and the capabilities of the local conditions. Accountability and metrics, process improvement, best practices. We try to imbue the work with that. And of course, trying to develop the systems for managing equipment functionality and what medications are on hand and what are the needs. Okay, how do we do this? Again, with this familiar chart over here now with Konbit Sante, we are powered by the things in the green arrow here. And these are the inputs that allow us to do what we do. Like many non-governmental organizations, we rely upon individual donations, support of family and small foundations. The stuff aspect comes from donated medical supplies. We improve staff performance and expertise through bringing in expertise and training. But also, most pertinent to today are grants and contracts from foundations and also from USAID, most pertinently, to help us do the work. Now, specifically with respect to USAID, since 2005, Konbit Sante has been a subcontractor to a direct prime contractor that received a contract from USAID. And we've been working at a facility called Fort Saint Michel, which is in the Madeleine area of the north, part of Cap Haitian. It's a public hospital. Again, I mentioned that we work with 2 public hospitals and 2 private clinics. This is the second public hospital. We've worked there for a long, long time, coming up on 20 years now. As you can see, we helped expand the facility in providing women's health services such as obstetrics, gynecology, prenatal, postnatal care. We assisted with a major expansion and renovation of the facility. And today, Fort Saint Michel is known as an essential provider of women's health care. We have nurses on staff. We have community health workers who go out into the community and meet with expectant mothers and tend to young children and organize rallies. And we have traditional birth attendants who are working to make for safer deliveries. This is a critical program that was funded entirely by the grant from USAID to the tune of about $200,000 a year. And as I said, we've been doing it for quite some time. Then, as indicated by the red bar at the top, we got the jolting news, the executive order on January 20th that essentially issued and as you can see, this is taken directly from the executive order, a 90-day pause in United States foreign development assistance, during which time there was to be a review of each foreign assistance program administered by USAID. And of course, the somewhat enigmatic waiver provision that the Secretary of State might waive the pause in Section 3A, just above, for specific programs. Those of you familiar with the process, the stop work order, the work in which organizations like ours are engaged, know that this was met with at least as many questions as action steps. Nobody really could believe that there would be a meaningful review of all the many thousands of programs and billions of dollars administered by USAID in a 90-day period. There was no mechanism set up for it. There was no way that each foreign assistance program could be reviewed meaningfully. There was no instruction for providing information on these reviews. Nobody asked for information. And the Secretary of State's process, I use the term advisedly, process for waivers was quixotic at best. Nobody really knew what to do. Nobody really knew what to provide. All we knew was that we had received a stop work order. And it was very clear that there'd be no payment for services rendered after that stop work order was received. Now, why? As time has progressed, I think it's pretty clear that there's an agenda at work here. It has much less to do with saving money and creating government efficiency, quote unquote, as it does to achieving various other policy agendas. And I would venture to say that Ambassador White may have some opinions about that. We'll get into that a little bit later. But what are the rationales for this? But why was USAID a target? More generally, how does foreign development aid advance local interests, but also our own interest as a nation, and what are the negatives? What does the future hold? So these are just a few of the questions raised, let alone the impacts, and we look forward to getting into these with Ambassador White today. So a brief introduction, if you have the occasion, and I encourage you to look up her bio at the University of Maine webpage. You'll see that she's an extraordinarily accomplished person, really extraordinarily positioned to lead this discussion today. She served in Senegal and in Haiti, and as an executive officer in Haiti, Egypt, and South Africa, mission director in Tanzania, with directing a $130 million aid program focusing on HIV and AIDS and malaria control and so forth, all the key essential services that USAID has provided over the years. She went to Liberia and administered the second largest development budget in Africa, and of course, most pertinent to today's discussion, has served as ambassador to Haiti in the wake of the devastating earthquake. So we're really very fortunate to have Ambassador White here today to share with us her perspectives and to lead our discussion. I'm going to stop sharing now, and if I can, turn the floor over to our guest, Ambassador White. Pam?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. As anyone that knows me, I'm passionate about USAID. I spent 30 years of my life running or being either a junior or senior officer at USAID, and then was ambassador a couple of times. And I want to start by saying, if any of my friends, first of all, I'll explain the hat later. It's not my style, but it is for today. And I want to talk a little bit about Konbit Sante because I've visited their projects. I've been to their hospitals. They are a fabulous organization that saves lives every single day in a country that is devastated by gangs. And this little Konbit Sante, which, not an enormous organization, but a ferocious one, they stand up for their rights. They keep running hospitals, even though gangs are everywhere. Other people, the French embassy, for example, closed its doors yesterday. It's too dangerous. The U.S. embassy is on a wing and a prayer. But this little Konbit Sante, they continue to do great work against all odds in the north of the country, which is a little bit cut off from the south because the roads have been completely gang run now for a couple of months. Port-au-Prince is now 90% run by gangs, so that this mighty organization continue to give health care to children and women and prenatal care and postnatal care is a bit of a little miracle. And there's millions of these little miracles there used to be millions of these little miracles all over the world, and that they were cut off in a email overnight saying, all the great work you've been doing for 20 years, all the lives that you've saved, the impact that this relatively small amount of money is having on the people of Haiti who are suffering, it's gone overnight. It's inexplicable to me how any nation on earth could think that this is a good idea. And we did it all over the world. We did it. My colleagues in USAID woke up. They were, the first Trump won, USAID under Ambassador Mark Green, who was my ambassador in Tanzania, did fairly well. I mean, they started programs that were in their own image. They dropped others that they didn't like. That's what they do. Every administration comes in with a different agenda, a different set of priorities. That was okay. It was fine. And then my colleagues, and then therefore my colleagues are under the wrong impression that USAID would be okay. But no, they get an email, some of them at 1 a.m, because they're all over the world, some at 3 p.m, who knows, saying, stop work now. We're shutting down USAID, and you have 3 days to get to the United States of America. Well, then they said, okay, you have 2 weeks. And then they said, all right, you have maybe, I don't know, I think they gave them 4 weeks in the end, but 4 weeks to take up your families. Your kids are in school, your pets are with you. 2 women were pregnant. They could not get back home because when they stopped USAID initially, they stopped all the funding. Funding stopped flowing. So a couple of women actually had to give birth overseas in suboptimal conditions because the United States of America cut off everything overnight. And don't anyone tell you that's not true. Then they came out and said, okay, well, we're going to review everything in 90 days. And then a couple of weeks later, like, oh, well, Secretary Rubio, who, by the way, has been in my house with his wife in Haiti for lunch more than once, and he was singing the praises of USAID. This is what makes our country great. This is what we should be proud of. I mean, you look him up, look it up online. As much as a year ago, or 6 months ago, probably, he was a huge supporter of USAID. And now he has said that he's reviewed something like 6,000 USAID programs around the world and has determined that 83% of those enormous amount of complicated projects and programs are not worthy of the United States and against the interest of the United States of America. This cannot be true. First of all, these programs are extremely complicated. You cannot do an evaluation of a USAID program doing it correctly for less than 6 months. We used to have 2-year evaluations. Okay, that was too long, but you cannot do it in less than 6 months. Do you have any idea to get food from Kansas? By the way, U.S. farmers made $2 billion last year from USAID food, buying food from U.S. farmers. Getting food from Kansas to Sudan to feed starving children takes an enormous system of delivery system. It's complex. You need experts. You need the food and the payments need to be watched every segment along the way. And AID is one of the few, maybe the only organization in the world that can take produce from its nation and get it on the other side of the world for relatively cheap amount of money and save lives. Yesterday, I got an email telling me that there's a refugee camp, mostly 95% women and children in Syria, that you got the news that no more support for the camp for the foreseeable future. There's 40,000 people in this camp. They relied on USAID. When they saw bags of food coming in with that handshake from the American people, we're going to feed you, we're going to take care of you, they immediately became American ambassadors, every single last one of them. So to cut this kind of thing off from the world is a tragedy. It is so devastating to me as an individual and as a person and as an ambassador, because AID, the American people, meant something to the world. And when I was ambassador to Haiti, I traveled constantly. I wanted people to understand that, yes, we care. Yes, we're giving. And there's been some criticism. Well, after the earthquake, $1 million, $2 million, we don't know what happened to it, blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute. 250,000 people were dead in Haiti in less than 5 minutes. Everything was ruined. Every office building, most of their professional staff, every hospital, every school, people were on the streets. And we came, the United States of America, more than anybody else. We came and we gave them food. We gave them tents. We gave them blankets. We started building sort of permanent temporary housing all over the country. We were there for them, and I was there for them. I was giving those blankets away. I was in every one of those tent cities. And yes, were they optimal living? Absolutely not. Were they better than living on the streets? Of course. And people knew that the people of the United States of America cared about Haitians. And let me tell you, right now, the country is overrun by gangs because and this is not, by the way, this is not the Trump administration or the Biden administration, it's both. We did nothing really to stop the infiltration of these gangs, which are now, I read something this morning that said pretty much in the next week or so, they'll run the country. So is USAID important around the world? It is unbelievably important. And I'll read a couple other things later, but if we don't have AID, we don't have the most important, in my opinion, part of that 3-pronged stool, which is defense, development, and diplomacy. And development of those three, that what we do around the world, we do it not only because we have a moral, we want to do it. We're good people. Our hearts are good. 50% of Americans after the earthquake in Haiti, 50% of the Americans gave something. So this idea that Americans don't care about the world, they don't care about, giving, don't want to give money around the world, that's ridiculous. Americans are incredibly generous and thoughtful and wonderful people. They do care. And that what we do with what we call soft power, I don't really like the name, but it's a good name. We go into places that no one else wants to go to. We go and we build water systems, we build economic systems, we give HIV/AIDS medicines to people who are dying. And by the way, by cutting off HIV medicines, which they say they're going to start again, but be aware, you just can't stop and start these complicated aid programs like a faucet. When you turn off the aid, you've turned off supplies that are coming from all over the world, mostly the United States of America, and that it takes a long while to restart such things. So not only are we saving lives, but we are making countries more stable. We are making them more secure. We're making them more prosperous. And by doing that, we make United States of America more secure and prosperous and safe. And so we have to make sure that we understand this is not just altruism. Take our money, feed your people, our people. No, no, no. This is not about, we don't have enough money to give them because we need it back in the United States. We must have soft power. Every great nation in the world needs soft power. And by the way, 10 years ago, guess who had the most embassies in the world? The United States of America. Guess who has the most embassies in the world today? China. Guess who every country in Africa that we pull out of, guess who is right there right now? And I saw this when I was in Africa, and I was there for many years. China. China wants to be there. You know why? Because they want to be the ones that are attracting their attention. They want to be the ones that get all those minerals. They're the ones that want to be there when these countries turn into booming economic giants that will be trade. Africa is the fastest growing continent on the world, both economically and population wise. We need to be engaged and future partners, economic partners, research partners, and we need to make sure that we as a people support the incredible efforts that used to go on at AID, and I hope can be restored. I'm getting little things saying, okay, it's enough, but I can go on forever, of course. But anyway, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ambassador White. That was not my intent. I'm just trying to encourage people to put their questions in the chat. So while we wait for some questions to pop in there, and thanks for that presentation. I would venture to say that at least 50% of the people on this call, perhaps maybe closer to 99%, are believers in the value of foreign development aid, USAID in particular. And this may be a question that's a little closer to the end of the discussion than the beginning, but what can be done at this point to resurrect, if you like, the foreign development aid infrastructure? I mean, yesterday, I think one of the federal judges basically ordered the agency to give people back their emails and to reconstruct the system by which they get emails. And I know as a recipient of funding, the payment system is largely defunct or hasn't been operable for a while. So, do you think from an advocacy standpoint, it's too late? And if it isn't too late, what are some suggested strategies or action steps that we can take?
Yeah, I will get to that question in a moment, but I promised myself I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it. And that is, there was a Wall Street Journal article that accused a USAID of being bloated and not doing this and doing that. And here's just 3 facts I want everyone to know, and then I'll get at that. The USAID is bloated and inefficient. No. USAID operates on less than 1% of the federal budget. We have a tiny budget compared to the rest of the or big entities in the federal budget. And we should be aware how much that money that we put into USAID comes right back to us in the United States. Fact, the Department of Defense has said over and over and over that USAID are their go-to people. You know why? Because if a general said, we've repeated this 1,000 times, we're going to need a hell of a lot more bullets if we don't have USAID, because we are in countries stabilizing economies and governments. And there's for every dollar spent on AID and development aid, there's a $20 economic return. So just go to AID is just not important because it's a give, food to starving children. I mean, that's important, but that's not all we do. That's a tiny fraction of what we do. That's sometimes what you hear. But even if that's the only thing that we do it better than anyone else on earth. So no, all is not lost. We thought it was kind of lost. I mean, I was visiting my grandkids and my son in California, my daughter-in-law, and my daughter-in-law came into my bedroom and she's never seen me cry in her life. Just tears started coming down in my face. Like this really well-run agency that really needs to do great things just got, torn apart. They cease to exist, stop work. How is this possible? How can my government let this happen? And then I turned around and said, okay, you better start getting online. You better start talking. You better start writing op-eds. You do everything possible to save this agency. And everyone that's on this call, you better start writing. You better start calling. You better start coming up with a strategy to tell our Congress that this is just not right, that this is taking away American power. It is taking away American power. I triple guarantee this.
Well, thanks for that, Pam. Advocacy is obviously a critical part of this, not only advocating to policymakers, but also, frankly, those of us that are involved in this work often have to overcome some severe skepticism about whether it's worth continuing to put more money towards Haiti. We've heard it's a basket case and all this kind of stuff. And then, one question that we've received here basically is like, people always think of the chaos and the violence and that it's a failed state, and so on and so forth. And, that's a major obstacle to gaining support. Now, what I always say to those situations is like, where we operate in the North, it's a completely different environment than one finds in Port-au-Prince. I mean, the security issues are not the same. Our people come to work every day. Kids go to school every day. The traffic is terrible, but the traffic is terrible every day. And you don't have the gun battles and you don't have the burning tires. There are demonstrations from time to time, but the security situation is completely different. And the biggest problem we have in terms of the impacts of security in the North is the supply chain and the logistics associated with getting people and material goods from place to place. So one answer that I give is that it is not, it's entirely possible to see your support dollars and your advocacy efforts bear fruit in the north of Haiti or in other parts of the country. But how do you suggest responding to people for whom, Haiti is just like, why would I even bother?
Because Haiti is an hour away from the United States of America. We have been deeply involved in Haitian, the good, the bad, and the ugly for 200 years. You can't turn your back on a country that's right around the corner. And these people, by the way, the Haitians that do get to the United States, they are the hardest working immigrants known to mankind. 80% learn English that come with no English, some of them. 80% learn English in the first year. 80% are deemed excellent, beyond expectation employees in the United States of America. These Haitians are so hardworking and so dedicated to their own families and to their greater communities that we need to support them. And maybe Cape Haitian is a little more secure than the rest, but it's not going to be. When these gangs get control of the country, watch out, my friend. They're coming everywhere, especially if you've got any kinds of resources. But this can't make you stop doing good. We've never stopped doing good when things went really down. We've always been there. We've always been there to protect people that cannot get get their own resources. There's 1 million displaced Haitians right now. We need to protect those displaced Haitians. They are displaced because of a rotten, corrupt system that has been going on too long. And yes, did I see examples of that when I was there? I certainly did. Did I see anything that would have ever led me to believe of this total breakdown of the government? No, I did not. But again, let me reiterate the one of the criticisms that I was told when I was in Washington before I went to Haiti is there's too many non-government organizations, there's way too many missionaries. Well, guess what, my friends? Guess what's left? NGOs and missionaries. That's what's doing the work of Haiti. This is these are the organizations that we should be supporting, that dare, that have the guts to stay around so that they can service the people of Haiti. And by the way, I know you understand this, but when I was ambassador, I told all my staff, stop using that word poor. I hate the word poor, because poor does, I mean, it makes people think, oh, those poor people. Nothing poor about Haiti except that they got their economy is in shambles, and there's billionaire Haitians, by the way, and millionaire Haitians, but their country and their music and their art and their history and I mean, everything about Haiti is rich. So I was always saying Haiti's way too rich to be poor, and they are.
Well, here's a question that's coming. What's your take on the effect of the dismantlement of USAID on the recruitment of the next generation of diplomats, intelligence officers, etc.? I'll have a parenthetical here that in another life, I participated in the examinations, the oral examinations and role playing that State Department and Commerce Department people have to play when they want to become commercial officers and so forth. And we had to sort of sit in front of them as if we were you know, very difficult, hard to persuade, and often antagonistic representatives of the host country, and saying, why is it that you want American companies to come in here? We have plenty of our own countries. And we saw some of the really best companies. We saw some really best and brightest next generation leaders of our country stepping into roles in the State Department. And I wonder if this is, as the question says, is this going to have a severe chilling effect on the desire of people to go into diplomacy? Or might it, for example, encourage more people to jump in and say, I won't have this, this administration will be over someday, and we really need the best and the brightest to jump into diplomacy. What's your take on that?
I can't help but think it's gonna have a horrible effect on people, the best and the brightest that we got for decades and decades. I mean, USAID is full of doctors and PhDs and people that speak 4, 5, 6 languages. I mean, Arabic and Chinese, and I mean every imaginable language under earth. That's what we've got at AID. We understand the world. We need these people, and the best and the brightest, the people that speak 3 or 4 languages, who've got a PhD in economic growth, or doctors, or what have you. Why would they want to join an organization that its own government is saying are full of criminals and fit for the wood chipper? I mean, God. But please, any young people that may see this, please, 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 you may want to put it off a year. I don't know. I can't make those decisions for you, but we need diplomacy and defense. I mean, defense maybe too, but diplomacy and development more than we've ever needed it in my entire life. Don't give up the ship just because we've got one bad captain.
That's great. I think we sustaining the effort and playing the longer game is something that we don't always do very well in this country, but particularly now we have to stay the course and keep using all of the effective tools we have at our disposal. We do have a question that is one that we frequently get, which is there are so many domestic needs.
Yeah.
And so many uses for funding, quite apart from the question of whether today any of that money will be spent to support, domestic operations. That's highly questionable. But why should we pour any more funding into a place like Haiti when we have so many needs here at home? And how can we help our fellow Americans understand the value proposition that that foreign aid really reflects.
Yeah, I get this question a lot myself, and it's more difficult to answer than it really should be. But what we're doing, what the importance of what we're doing with USAID money is not just feeding hungry kids and starving mothers and displaced people. What we're doing is spreading the influence of the United States of America worldwide. That's why every time that we close an embassy or close an AID or whatever in Africa is China right there to replace it. Because in the end, what we're doing with this soft power is building alliances, building future trading partners. Brazil, India, what was the third one? Brazil, India. There's a third one. Anyway, I'll think of it second. South Korea. Were three of our biggest AID recipients 30 years ago. We pouring money into these countries to show them the way forward, how they could grow businesses, how they could train their people. We set up training centers. We sent out sending people to college in the United States of America. And by the way, no greater ambassadors in the world than the people that study in the United States of America and can see what we're all about or what we used to be all about and go back and brag to their people about the great United States of America with that shining light on the Statue of Liberty, which has gotten dimmed also a little bit. But the fact of the matter is that first of all, the agency spends very little money, and we have returns on our money. I just told you that for every dollar that we put into AID, we get $7 to $20 in return. It's not just throwing money up into the air. And what we put into AID to USAID is not taking away from feeding poor kids in your district. That is an entirely different part of the United States agenda, the part of the United States government. And if we stop the 60 billion going into AID, then my community is going to get something. No, that is not how it works. That is not the point of why we have a vibrant, fabulous reach out to the world, which is in the terms of USAID. And if we turn this off, if we turn off those magical handshakes, we are going to be seen as villains around the world. And I kind of see that myself.
Well, the impacts of it are being felt
Yeah.
already in terms of our global brand, so to speak.
52,000 jobs, 52,000 American jobs have been lost today. Since this thing, stop work order came in, 52,000 American jobs related to food aid and a whole variety of other things have been lost since the beginning of this stop AID order. Ridiculous. And $3.3 billion worth of goods and services have been stopped because of this in America, not around the world, in America.
Your answer to this raises another question that USAID is an economic driver, not merely a program operator. And at Konbit Sante, we have quite a few local Haitian staff, and we have embedded staff whom we fund at other institutions. And so the loss of a program like that we have at Fort Saint Michel creates an economic ripple as well. And the question that we have from one of our participants here is the terrible harm being done to the beneficiaries of programs is one thing, but what about the locally engaged staff? What about the staff members who are USAID employees? Do you happen to know if there were any packages or any support given to these people, or were they just told on Friday, don't bother coming back on Monday? And by the way, the last flight out is Sunday.
That's I mean, in a nutshell, yes, that's exactly what it is. It is. They were told they got a little further down the line, and some of the local staff, the Foreign Service Nationals, the FSN, are still working on a wing and a prayer in order to get everything out. And by the way, they also were told destroy the USA headquarters, which they went into and took down. These thugs went into and took down all our posters of our wonderful achievements over the world. They just threw them on the ground or tore them up. They took the letters of United States Agency Development off the side of the Ronald Reagan building and threw them in a trash can. I mean, it was disgusting. And and people around the world do not have a job because they were told on Monday, Friday, don't come to work on Monday. It really was that horrific. It really was. And and it wasn't just Americans, but it's not only Americans that were employed directly by AID, but our thousands and thousands of contractors and subcontractors, our foreign service national staffs, who, by the way, are the best, always the best and the brightest in the nation. That we recruit them, they proud to work for America, proud to work for an agency that cares about their country. That's dead.
We have time for just a few more questions. We did have a comment that the statistic on jobs lost was very powerful. And, you know, there is an organization in Washington called the United States Global Leadership Coalition, USGLC. Liz Schreier is the head of it. And for many years, that organization has been effective in persuading politicians on both sides of the aisle about the importance of the foreign aid budget, the State Department budget in particular. I remember going for many, many years to their annual meetings, and they would have on stage Republicans and Democrats each saying, this is an area where we can find common ground. It's much more, it's cost effective and so forth. This year, interestingly enough, at their gala, they honored Susan Collins, our senator here, senior senator here in Maine. Mm-hmm. Right? The senior senator from Maine, who's now the head of the Appropriations Committee. And of course, you know, I know from my own interactions with Senator Collins' office that, you know, the efforts are being made, I'll put it that way, to try to reach people who are, you know, one hopes persuadable about the foreign development aid budget, but obviously thus far to no avail. But I think that's, you know, advocacy can take place on many different levels, you know, by being a nuisance to your local legislators' offices and saying, I'm not going away until I get some answers on this. Op-eds, visits, if you happen to be in Washington, to your elected representative, all these things make an impression. And we have a very quixotic administration, which changes its mind from day to day. So one hopes that there's a prospect for at least some about face on some of this. Although I do remember that at our first Konbit Sante board meeting, after the stop work order came down, one of our board members observed that, you know, it may come back, but it will never be the same. And I hope that is, you know, I thought at the beginning, I thought, well, you know, that it can come back and it can be rebuilt. But when I see the complexity of the agency and the thousands and thousands of contracts, it's very, very difficult to imagine coming back. One other question we have here: loss. Yes,
I just want 3. I want 3 minutes before the end, just because I have a special message about my hat. But
okay. That's Susan, one of the questions we have too.
Oh, good. Susan Collins used to sit in her seat in Washington, D.C. and brag about USAID. I'm quoting, USAID plays a vital role in the global effort to end child and maternal hunger. And I applaud USAID for its continued efforts to promote food security around the world. That is Susan Collins. She, all of a sudden, aid disappears and she doesn't say peep. I mean, come on. That's really crazy.
Well,
yeah.
On this,
go ahead.
I'll give you your 3 minutes in a minute, in just a minute, Pam, but allowing 30 seconds of that 3 minutes to deal with your headgear today. But this question is: the loss of funds for food programs in particular is a tragedy on local residents, as there are many other impacts. Loss of funds for healthcare is a tragedy for humanity. Treatable communicable disease will only spread and not simply, they won't simply remain where they originate. How do we make the point to Americans, if I can put it that way, that, you know, failure to deal with communicable health problems abroad is so short-sighted? Because, well, you look at, you know, the first cases of the COVID virus were manifested in Boston when people came for a healthcare conference, having been in China prior to that. So, you know, how do we get the word out to people in America that this is coming? These diseases could be coming to a community near you.
Okay, listen, this is actually, this is going to be one of my key points. So thank you for bringing it up. Ebola does not have, and if Ebola doesn't care if you live in Kenya or Kansas. Neither does COVID. Neither does Ebola. I said Ebola. Neither does chicken pox or monkey pox. I mean, Ebola is right now going forward with trying to get a handle on Ebola. And Ebola is one of the most infectious diseases around. We have seen diseases spread. I mean, come on, we have the exact example of COVID. We don't need to look further. This can easily happen. And USAID has the world's best tracking system for communicable diseases, the best in the world. AID is well known as the best, used to be known as the best development agency in the world. We are also the best at training what could be terrorists, or in Niger, we had training programs. We were teaching basic skills to former terrorists because they said to me, and I interviewed them, why we only became terrorists, ISIS terrorists, because we had nothing else to do. They came to our village and they said, we'll give you $100 a month to be a terrorist. And they said, and we'll feed your family. We're going to give them rice and beans. And they said, fine, because they had no other choice. We gave them other choices. They became American believers in America, and they did not become, they never went back. Well, I don't know if some of them, but many did not go back many years later. I'm going to quickly also tell you that malaria, which used to be rampant in the United States, we got rid of it. The only country in the world that I know that actually got rid of it was when I ran the malaria, my team, believe me, a huge team, was running a malaria program in Zanzibar. We started with a 40% incidence, 45% incidence of malaria. I'm talking fast because I want to get my 3 minutes in. We started with a 45%. 2 years later, we had it down to 5%. Today, it is still 5%. We can make changes, dramatic, sustainable changes with the right kind of inputs. We need to do more, not less. We need to care about this world more, not less, because the world is in a bad place right now, in my opinion. At least, yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody could argue with you on that last point. Before we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about your highly coordinated headgear today? I know you wanted to make a point about that.
Yes, I do. My son, I must say, gave me a call last night and said he didn't think this might be the exact best use of my ambassadorial time, but he's my son and I'm the ambassador. And so I'm going to remove my hat and I'm going to show you what I'm actually wearing. I'm wearing a giant pair of what I'm going to refer to as big boy pants. And what I'm saying to the Congress of the United States of America, and especially to King and Collins, put your big boy pants on. You let the appointee process for cabinet members go through approving. Well, Senator Collins said, well, I believe a president needs to have the people he trusts. No, not when that's part of your job to when you're interviewing these people and you can see they're plainly not qualified for the position of running the Health and Human Services of the United States of America, who believes in cod liver oil for measles and killing. Go ahead and let bird flu go all over the United States and see how many survive, and we'll take the survivors and breed them. Hello. Yes, these appointees, it's your job to stop going through the people that are not qualified to run these very critical agencies. So first, please, you in the Congress, put on your big boy pants. Second, about these appointees, and if you didn't do anything, maybe you can at least criticize the horribleness and do it out loud and not to 2-3 people in your office. Second, we need to resurrect the United States Agency for International Development. This was a crucial part of our soft power. It has to be done. And even if you don't like USAID, even if you think, wow, we didn't really do a good job with USAID, we could have done a better job, whatever you think, you must understand that you just can't get rid of agencies on a whim. You can't have Elon Musk prancing around a stage with a fancy chainsaw. I mean, did you see that? If one person thought that was funny, then don't ever come in my living room. Not funny at all. And so even if you don't believe, maybe you don't believe that we should have a bigger, more robust agency for international development, we really, really cannot just willy-nilly get rid of agencies. So you in the Congress, put your big boy pants on, stand up and say something. I'm so sick of these mamby-pamby people. Well, we don't like it either, but what could we do? And the speech by Trump with the Democrats sitting on their hands with these dour looks on their faces, with these little plastic signs saying whatever, and they refused to applaud when the cancer victim was indoctrinated into the Secret Service. No, that's worth clapping for. We can clap for Republican things. It's what it's important what you clap for and what you stand behind. So put on your big boy pants and stand up for the American people and what we believe in, which is doing good in the world and doing good in our own communities. And by the way, they really, really have to make sure that when you're talking to these people, that they get the message that we don't like inaction or sitting on our hands or just looking like they're a dour look. We don't like it. It's not enough.
Well, in our next webinar, we're going to ask Ambassador White to express her opinion less ambiguously, so that we all get the message. So we knew going in today that we would have a lively presentation, and we really need that kind of advocacy and energy to help get the point across, because we are, in many respects, as I like to say, at an inflection point in our country, in terms of the institutions that we rely upon to follow the rule of law and to have an organized society. And it happens to be manifesting itself in a really critical way here, where it can be often very hard to find a constituency for foreign development aid, because the impacts are not felt directly here at home. So some very good points on advocacy, whether or not you want to wear your boxers as a headdress. We certainly have to, take out our poison pens and take out our typewriters and word processors and pick up the phone and send those emails, because eventually what people respond to is the squeaky wheel. And we know that it makes a difference. It just doesn't always happen immediately. So I really want to thank Ambassador White for her many insights and for her opinions today, and for frankly, some actionable guidance. I'd like to draw your attention in closing to Konbit Sante's website, which you can see here, Konbit, sorry, KONBITSANTE.org. You can learn more about what we do, the way we do it, and we'd be very happy to continue this dialogue with any of you. And of course, we would certainly appreciate any support that you can give us in fighting the good fight and making change in Haiti. So I don't believe we have any more questions. We did have a few here's and brava for your closing oratory.
Can I say one last thing? That if you really want it, we need to increase taxes on the rich. If we had not enacted the 2017 Trump tax, we would now be at least, someone told me, $1.3 trillion richer. So there is an answer here. It's not slashing good agencies, it's taxing the rich more. The very, very rich, not the middle class.
I think we're going to have you back as a guest on our next show, Pam. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us, and I think you have a lot of kindred spirits in the webinar today. And if you'd like for further information on what we do, and I'm sure Ambassador White would be very happy to discuss with us again this kind of thing. We did have one question that I want to follow up, and then I'm going to say it out loud so I don't forget. And that is, you gave a quote from Senator Collins about the value of USAID. And if you can send that to me, Pam, I'll be sure that everybody who attends the webinar who would like to have that quote will pass that on. So with that, have a very pleasant Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for your support of Konbit Sante. And above all, thanks to our guest, Ambassador White. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.